think about this last part. And to wage war, you must be capable of being an enemy. What does it mean to be capable?
To have the balls.
By the way, that's a big part of it. That is a big part of it. But there's something else you have to have as well.
Some sort of position?
So what?
Some sort of position to...
Position?
Like,
yeah. Okay, so I guess you have to have three things then. So you have to have a position, something that you believe in or some kind of a belief. Then you have to have the balls to back it up.
The knowledge.
The knowledge. Yeah, it goes along with having the knowledge. You have to have the capacity to do it as well. You have to have the capacity to do it as well. In other words, it isn't enough just to have the courage. I got the guts to go fight 1,000 people. Well, good for you. That's the beginning. That's the beginning point. But now you also have to have the capacity to do it, the ability to do it. Sometimes it means knowledge. You have to know how to do that. Sometimes it is physical. You can go fight 1,000 people. You have to have the ability to do something like that. It isn't enough just to be willing to wage war. You have to be able to do it as well. And so as we're going to see, Nietzsche means this quite literally. You have to have the physical capacity, but the physical capacity also requires to have the knowledge capacity as well. In other words, if you're going to get into an argument with somebody, it isn't just that you're willing to argue with somebody. You've got to know some things to back it up. It's not just the willingness, it's the ability. So if you want a friend, you've got to be willing to wage war for him. And you guys got that one pretty well. You have to be willing to go to war with your friend. Otherwise, what is a friend? By friend, we're talking about a real friend, not just an acquaintance, not just someone who sits next to you in a class, but somebody who you've got some sort of a deep connection with. We can go as far as, it was Aristotle, he asked, what is a friend? It's a single soul that dwells in two bodies. It's somebody who is so close with somebody else that it's almost like they're the same person. That's a true friend, a deep friend. So in order to, if you want to have a friend, you've got to be willing to wage war for them. Because, of course, they're going to have to be willing to wage war for you. And this is why we form these bonds with people. But this is the last part that I find so interesting. To wage war, you must be capable of being an enemy. In other words, if you can't back yourself up, if you can't back your friend up, if you can't back up what you say and think, well then, there's almost no point in even having your thoughts. There's almost no point in even having your opinions. Why have an opinion that you can't back up? Why have a view that you can't back up? Geez, there's almost nothing else that could lead us to nihilism faster than not being able to back things up. And nihilism is this leveling tendency which causes us to say, well, nothing matters, nothing matters. You ever have an argument with somebody, or I don't want to call it an argument, maybe it's just a discussion, and the person will present some view that they have, and then you'll present the view that you have, and then it becomes very uncomfortable, and it's like, oh, well, who knows though, right? Yeah, everyone's got their own opinions, and then it just kind of breaks off at that point. That's kind of like two people who put their hands and they're going to fight, and they kind of look at each other and go like, I'm tired, how about you? Yeah, I'm tired too. Okay, well, why don't you go that way, I'll go this way, and then, nothing will happen. Oh, okay. It's almost the same as that. And you ask the question of like, well, why would you want to argue with your friends? Well, who else are you going to argue with? Your enemies? You think your enemies want to hear what you have to say? You think your enemies have any intention to make you better or stronger in any way? Of course not. Your enemies just want you to be wrong. It's your friends who are most likely to sharpen you and to tell you where they think that you're wrong because they care about you. And if you have a friend with whom you can't have a disagreement, with whom you can't kind of shape these ideas, I would suggest to you that you don't really have a friend. You have a convenient acquaintance who happens to be in the same place at the same time as you. But you're not making each other better in any way because you're afraid of having some sort of a disagreement. Remember, going back to some stuff from much earlier in the semester, we're looking at why it is that teenagers will be very cruel to their parents to say things like, I hate you, and all that. You remember what we learned back then? It was because that's a personality who's testing those boundaries of love with a person with whom they know that they're safe. Parents aren't likely to just go, oh, you hate me? Well, then you're dead to me. And that's really it. Like you're 14, they treat you like, they start making you pay rent, and they don't ever say they love you, and you're basically just a tenant. That isn't likely to happen. Even if it takes some time to get over those disagreements and those arguments, that overcoming does generally happen for most people. So now you've learned, okay, telling you that I hate you and wish that you had never been born, that's too far. So now let me back up from there, and we're testing those limits. If you can't test limits with your friends, then that tells you that you don't feel secure with them. You don't feel like you can explore ideas. You don't feel like they're really a friend for life. You feel like essentially like you've got to dance for the man now. You have to dance and say the right things and do the right things. And the reward that you get for that is this little piece of cheese, which is having this person in your life who would never be in your life unless you were, I don't want to say they're puppets. I don't think it's really that degrading. But they only have you around because of the comfort. They only have you around because you agree with them. Or they only have you around because you don't make them face certain ideas. There's no security that's there. So then now the real question becomes, geez, so if you actually end up having to go to war, and it's not just a literal war, it could be a literal war, but if you actually have to go to war over something, does that person really have your back? Because if they're only in your life because you don't make them uncomfortable, there are very few things that will make us more uncomfortable than a war, or a fight, or an argument. And so, you see this kind of stuff happen online all the time. I was thinking, I don't want to give too many details, but very recently, there was a student I knew of who had some things said about them online. And this person was saying that they had friends who said, man, that's messed up. We know this isn't true. We know you. But, we can't really hang out with you right now because then they're going to start, then they're going to think that we're involved in all that. Well, it's not true, though. It doesn't matter, though, because this person is now so toxic and so radioactive that if anybody associates that with them, they're going to say the same things about us. Well, then you didn't have a friend. They aren't somebody who was willing to wage war for you. You just had a person who was around you because it was convenient, and they got something out of you. You made them feel less alone in the world. You made them feel like they mattered because of your interactions. So they got lots out of you, but they weren't really a friend. And then we say that kind of stuff all the time, like, well, then they aren't really a friend. But you really have to internalize that. That friends are a real thing. Acquaintances are a real thing also. There's all kinds of these gradations of social interaction. And you don't want to go to war with an acquaintance. You don't want to go to war with somebody who's only there because of the convenience. And so you might be a person who only has a few friends in life. But that's fine. A few friends can make a tribe, can't they? You might be a person who has a whole lot of friends. And you're very blessed with that. That's a good thing. Some of you have families that operate this way, where you always have each other's backs. Some of you operate in families where that's not the case. We should seek out the genuine article in life. We should seek out the real thing in life. This is why truth is so important, because truth is the real thing. We shouldn't seek out fiction because it's not real. It leaves us feeling empty. It leaves us feeling insecure. We should seek out real friends. Even if you only have a few, those few are there for each other. Rather than seeking out the fictional thing, which is, again, acquaintances who are with us because it's convenient. And also, we should seek, according to Nietzsche, we should seek friends who are capable of standing by us. People who are not going to be a liability when things go down. Because, it's good for people to have your back. It's good, it's a good thing for people to have your back, but if they're not capable of being useful in those situations, then don't drag them into those situations. If you have a friend who's, like 95 pounds and can barely lift himself up off the ground, much less a weight, man, don't drag them into a rumble. That's just mean. You can get that person killed. And by the way, it also makes it worse, because now you don't only have to fight for yourself, but you've also got to fight for your friend who's going to get killed otherwise. You know, and that person now becomes a liability. So you also don't want to drag people into these situations that will become liabilities to you. You know? I was listening back to some videos. I say you know a lot. I realized this. I mentioned that to someone last period and they said, oh yeah, why didn't you tell me? I'd rather you had told me a month ago rather than me find out myself by listening to videos going like, oh my God, you sound like Sylvester Stallone. He's always saying, you know, you know, you know. So be capable of being an enemy. And that means to be capable, in order to be capable of being an enemy, you also make yourself capable of being a friend. So if you want to be a friend, be capable of supporting people around you. And surround yourself with people who are capable of supporting you. That doesn't mean that if someone's not useful to you, you just kind of get out of your, toss them aside. But it does mean you put your time and energy into people who can help build you up. You know? See? You know? You know? If you hear me say you know, just start, everyone just say you know, you know. It'll take a few of those before I finally stop doing it. You know? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?
How do you know saying you know? Because it sounds like unprofessional. Or it doesn't flow well.
It sounds stupid.
You know?
You know? and I genuinely mean that. It's kind of like if I'm listening to a speaker talk and the person says right. If you're someone who's talking and they say right, like today's a school day, right? So afterwards, right, we have to think about what the weather's going to be like this weekend, right? The person who says right at the end of sentences, I don't trust you. Because you don't believe in yourself. You're almost looking to me for validation, right? And I know why we do it, right? But sometimes it's just there because we're seeking that validation. Sometimes it's because it just kind of fits in there rhythmically. I think that sounds like that to me.
I feel like it could be like a check-in if people are paying attention to the...
That's what it is. It is a check-in. But I don't think anyone's listening to me anyway. So it's almost like I'm beating myself in the face by asking, you know? It'd be like me asking every 5 seconds, you listening? You listening? Earbuds in. I just think I sound ridiculous when I keep saying you know. That's why I mention it. But I'd also rather know it, rather than just go like, I don't know, 50 years into my life and think, huh, hey, I've been doing it for 50 years. I look back at old stuff and I don't do it. It just started for some reason this past semester.